Welcome to Blow the Whistle podcast with Coach Andrea, where we speak truth to break through the silence. I'm so glad you're here today. This is a space to be honest about the things we stayed quiet about for too long, a space for hope, for healing, and for learning to live fully one day at a time. Whatever burden you're carrying today, I hope that it feels a little bit lighter by the end of this podcast. So take a deep breath, get comfortable, and let's get started with the next episode of Blow the Whistle. Hey, friends, it's Coach Andrea. Welcome to another episode of Blow the Whistle. I know it's been a minute, but I'm so excited to be back to share more truth with you and to really focus on the things that are not only helpful, but hopeful and also encouraging. You may notice a new look, a new sound, a new background, all the things, but I'm showing up the same, maybe older, wiser, more authentic, but definitely still rooted and grounded in the same principles. And so, without further ado, it's time for another episode of Blow the Whistle. I'm calling this first episode Welcome Back because I don't think I've ever taken a break this long from the podcast. And it wasn't an intentional break, but I really spent the last year and a half thinking about what's really important to me, what matters, focusing on my family. I graduated another kid. So three down, one to go. And it's really been an interesting season to have adult children that I get to watch grow into themselves, but also learn how to relate to differently, as well as learn new things about myself, develop a new appreciation for this space of betrayal and a new passion. Some of you may know I launched the Intimate Partner Betrayal Awareness Day last year. That was a dream of mine from the beginning of my own recovery journey. And so to see it come to pass has been such a delight for my heart. And we are approaching the second Intimate Partner Betrayal Awareness Day. So be sure you mark your calendars for August 4th. And so that's where I want to start is why I decided to start an awareness day and why I think it's so important. When I was doing my research, Google told me that there were over, I can't remember if it was 350,000 or 350 million videos recorded just on TikTok alone about betrayal. And as we know, it's in the news every time you turn around. And there's a realization for me that the way betrayal is portrayed in the media, the way it's discussed in the larger spotlight, is definitely not what it's like in real life. And any betrayed partner will attest to that and definitely agree with that. That what you thought betrayal might feel like is not at all what it feels or looks like. And what you thought recovery might feel or look like is definitely not what it feels or looks like. And I'll get into more of what I mean by that. But there are awareness days for domestic violence, for men's mental health, women's mental health, breast cancer, all sorts of important causes. And with betrayal being so rampant in our society, I thought, why don't we have a day to really discuss this and bring light to it and help people understand why it's so important, how many people are being impacted by it, what it looks like to really come alongside someone in their recovery journey and be a support. And ultimately, this is about betrayed partners. Betrayed partners are misunderstood, mischaracterized, misdiagnosed, and so many other things. You know, when you see betrayal in the media or on the news, it's this, hey, I'm heartbroken, but I forgive you. Let's move on. And we don't see the reality of a person being shattered, their life being shattered, an inability to function or focus, even a loss of identity of knowing who you are for yourself and in the world. And I don't think we talk about it enough, sadly, because many betrayed partners face shame and are pushed into isolation. And then you have people who misunderstand, and then you have people who want to bypass spiritually or any other way because it makes them uncomfortable. You know, when I read scripture and see how they treated people with leprosy, they put them in a separate camp. They were unclean. Don't touch them. Don't engage with them. And sometimes that's what it feels like to be a betrayed partner. Like you're walking around with something that's contagious and no one wants to catch what you have. When in actuality, you are a victim. You are experiencing the consequences of someone else's choices. And what you need more than anything is care and compassion. So there's three pillars to Intimate Partner Betrayal Awareness Day. And the first is awareness, helping people understand what intimate partner betrayal is, that it's way more than just cheating or sexual infidelity, that there's financial infidelity, social infidelity, psychological infidelity, and ultimately, betrayal, intimate partner betrayal, is a breach of trust in a committed relationship that violates the safety of that relationship. And that's the simplest definition. And helping people understand that it's so much more than, oh, this person cheated. They violated the safety, they breached the trust. They created an environment that causes harm and trauma to the betrayed partner, and it's not something that you can just get over. So, the goal of the Betrayal Awareness Day is really to change the narrative. And if you've seen Hamilton, Hamilton betrays his wife in the story. And she says, I'm taking myself out of the narrative because she doesn't want people talking about her and how he betrayed her and broke her heart. But towards the end of the play, she says, I'm putting myself back in the narrative. She wants to be able to tell her own story. And that's what I want for betrayed partners is to be in control of their own narrative. That doesn't mean we control what people say or think about us, but that we have the confidence to tell our story. So the first pillar is awareness. The second is advocacy, and that is creating resources, opportunities, care and support and justice for betrayed partners. And then the third pillar is agency, and that's restoring that agency and the freedom to tell your story. I asked a question recently: who benefits from your silence? And sometimes you're in a position where you can't tell your story. Maybe you are very involved in the community and it might cost a job or a certain position, or maybe there are so many people involved that it would disrupt not only your lives but the lives of children when you have small children, when maybe there's illness or other things that prevent you from sharing your story. And so I understand that some people can't share their story, but what I want is for everyone to have the choice, everyone to have the opportunity, everyone to have the freedom to share their story if they want to. And we know that there is great healing that happens when you can share your story in safe community. Sometimes we don't have that initially, but my hope is to change that. And that's what the Intimate Partner Betrayal Awareness Day is about. It's not celebrating the awful thing that happened to you. It's not a party to say, yay, look at this awful thing that I went through. But really, what it is marking a moment in time to say, hey, we see you, we hear you, we believe you, and we care about you. And it takes great strength to continue to get up every day after the discovery of betrayal. I remember so many days when the last thing I wanted to do was see the sun or feel the sun or laugh or feel happy. It felt like that would be minimizing my pain and the experience that I was having. But as time went on, I realized life is still going on. My children are still growing up, community's still happening. And so there was a fight to get up and face the reality, to deal with the heartache, to make decisions about what to do next, and to really stay rooted and grounded in what I know is true, and that is that hope is always before us. Hope is the belief that things can get better, and we don't control what happens in our relationships, but what we do have control over is ourselves. And so, my desire for healing and hope and something better on the other side was the thing that got me up every morning to continue to face the day. And I know so many of you listening are in that battle at different stages, but you understand what it's like to be in the fight for your life. And I want to honor that because betrayal really is like a war. It's a war on all your systems, it's a war on your mind, your body, your soul, and for your family, whatever that looks like. And sometimes the battle is won through separation and divorce, and sometimes the battle is won through restoration of the relationship. But all victories count and all victories matter. And we know that there is no comparison in suffering. So mark your calendar for August 4th. Intimate Partner Betrayal Awareness Day will be that day every year going forward. My desire is for it to reach national and international levels, to have it grow bigger and bigger every year. This year we have an agenda where 8:04 in the morning and 8:04 in the evening. This will be Central Standard Time. We're going to have a moment of silence. We are going to be on live. I have different guests lined up. There will be giveaways, all the details. You can go to IPB, that's for Intimate Partner Betrayal, IPBawareness.org, and sign up for the newsletters, the updates. You can view the agenda. There is a survey there that's created because I want this day to not only be about survivors, but something that's curated by survivors. And so, what matters to you is what is important to me. How would you like this day to look? What would it look like for you to feel honored? And that's what we're working on for this second Betrayal Awareness Day. We also have some exciting opportunities for you to honor a betrayed partner, for you to acknowledge people in your community or your friends or your support group, or if you're a coach or a counselor and you have clients that you would like to honor. We have partnered with Tiff's Treats, and they are offering us an opportunity to not only raise awareness but raise money in the in the goal to support betrayed partners. So August 4th also happens to be National Chocolate Chip Cookie Day. We're going to put a little sweet into an otherwise bitter situation. And so, between, I think it's the dates of like July 24th through August 6th, you can use the code that they've given us, which I will put in the show notes, and send Tiff's Treats cookies to someone in your life who needs a little sweet in the midst of their bitter. We are also partnering with a partner owned business and creating a special candle. And if you haven't heard me discuss, I call betrayed partners embers of light. And the reason for that is because embers represent resilience, they represent hope, they represent what remains after the fire has died down. And I couldn't think of a better way to describe partners than embers, and embers can be buried for years. I did research on it and found out embers can be buried for years, and then someone can come along and fan them and create a brand new flame. And so that's how I feel as a betrayed partner and when I work with betrayed partners. The light never really goes out, the flame never dies. It might be covered in ash, but underneath there is that little ember of hope and light. And so the candle will represent that. And I'm excited about that. We're going to have greeting cards, all these things that have been in my mind for years and years. You can order a card and send it to a partner, or order a card and give to a betrayed partner, betraying partners. I hope you're listening. I'm setting you up for ways to honor your partner. And last year, that was such an unexpected delight to have people taking their spouse out to dinner or sending flowers or just saying, "Hey, thank you for still being here." Those moments of acknowledgement and appreciation go a long way for a betrayed partner who is sacrificing a lot to continue in the journey. So, just a moment to honor the sacrifice, to honor the strength, to honor the resilience, and to say, "Hey, I see you." The other thing, which I am super excited about, if you haven't heard, I did write a book, and it is a picture book, but it is dedicated to betrayed partners. And so it's not long, but it is called An Ember of Light. And on the cover, I'm showing it for those who are watching the video, is a little girl with a light inside. And that's what this story is about. It's a journey through life, knowing that we're all born with the light. And at some point, we all experience something that comes to dim our light, and the journey that we go through to get that light back, to turn our spark back into a flame. And so that's what this book is about. And people said, "Why'd you write a picture book?" Well, if you're a betrayed partner, you know how difficult it is to read long books. You know how hard it is to focus. Your brain feels like mush. This is professionally illustrated by an award winning author named Robert Paul, who took up this project much to my delight when he doesn't even do individual projects. But when I told him what it was about and who it was for, he said that it was a mission that he wanted to get behind. And so I just want to read a little bit of the book and, whet your appetite. It's available on my website, fullyalivecoachingllc.com. You can also find the link on the Intimate Partner Betrayal Awareness site. But I want to read it to you. And the pictures are so incredible that I hope you get a copy. And there are discussion questions in the back for those under 18 and for those over 18. So if you're a multi-generational home, parents with children, grandparents with children and grandchildren, this makes a great gift. It doesn't say betrayal in it, but again, it's a story that every woman goes through. It's that shero's journey that we all embark upon from the moment that we're born. So it says, "Once upon a time, I was guiding my spark, holding it close in the shadow and the dark. The world told me, 'It's too much, put it away.' 'Why do you shine so bright?' they say. So I kept it small, under lock and key, afraid of the truth, afraid to be me. But embers remember, even buried in ash. They pulse with the rhythm, they hum, they flash. And deep in my chest, a heat began to grow, a whisper saying, 'Daughter, it's time. Let your light show.'" I'm going to stop there. The pictures are incredible. There's one where the person is in complete darkness, but there's a little ember shining in the middle of her chest. And that is how I feel about betrayed partners, that life may dump lots of sorrow and hardship in your lap. But underneath there, the truth of who you are, the light within is always there. And so an ember of light is available for purchase on my website. I am signing copies and working on a curriculum to partner with the book for those who want to partake in that. And there will be more data coming up on that very soon. So, as you can see, already in this second year, there's a lot that's been accomplished. I want to say thank you to all the people who have been working with me to make this day possible. And if you want your story shared anonymously, I will be sharing stories that day just so that people get to see that betrayal comes in all shapes, sizes, and colors. This is a day for men who've been betrayed and women who've been betrayed because men get betrayed too. And it's important that we talk about that. I'm going to have some of your favorite professionals joining me on the mic that day. And so it's just going to be a way for us to gather as community. I hope that people will gather locally in their community with their friends, with their support groups, even if it's virtually, just to not be alone on that day. Or if you choose to be alone, you will be in company with us as we're on live for that day. The last thing I want to say about the day is the importance of telling stories. For so long, women especially have been silenced. And we know that when we swallow our stories, they don't just go away. Everything that we bury is not buried dead. It's alive in us and it is impacting us in our day to day lives. And there are so many people who have a story to tell and are bearing the weight of that untold story. And I was doing some research and reading a book by an author named Sylvia Federico. She was talking about the demonization of gossip and how it's used to break women's solidarity. Now, this is very fascinating to me because we know that gossip is used in negative terms today, but it wasn't always that way. And the more research I do and the way that I understand how women have been victimized, demonized, made to feel small, dehumanized, objectified. I could keep going with the list of words, but I think you get the point. But I want to share with you what she says about gossip because I think it's fascinating and hopefully you will find it as fascinating as I did. So, this is an excerpt from her book called Witches, Witch Hunting, and Women. Tracing the history of the words frequently used to define and degrade women is a necessary step if we are to understand how gender oppression functions and reproduces itself. The history of gossip is emblematic in this context. Though through it we can follow 2 centuries of attacks on women at the dawn of the modern England, when a term commonly indicating a close female friend. So that's what gossip used to mean. That's what it referred to, was a close female friend turned into one signifying idle, backbiting talk, that is, talk potentially sowing discord, the opposite of the solidarity that female friendship implies and generates. Attaching a denigrating meaning to the term indicating friendship among women served to destroy the female sociality that had prevailed in the Middle Ages, when most of the activities women performed were of a collective nature And in the lower classes, at least, women formed a tight knit community that was the source of strength unmatched in the modern era. Now, when I heard that, I had to go back and revisit it because I've never heard the term gossip used in a positive light. And throughout the book, she talks about how all of this was rooted in capitalism, just like the witch hunts were about women who owned land and capitalism and wanting to take control of that land. Well, this is what happens with the word gossip. So, traces of the use of the word are frequent in literature of the period deriving from the Old English terms God and sib, akin, gossip, originally meant godparent, one who stands in a spiritual relation to the child to be baptized. That is mind blowing to me. That is mind blowing to me. In time, however, the term was used with a broader meaning. In early modern England, the word gossip referred to companions in childbirth, not limited to the midwife. It also became a term for women friends with no necessary derogatory connotations. In either case, it had strong emotional connotations. We recognize it when we see the word in action denoting the ties that bound women in pre modern English society. I'm going to skip a little bit of what she says, but she goes on to give an example. And it says, thus, in one of the mystery plays of the Chester cycle representing Noah urging people and animals to enter the ark, the wife is shown sitting in the tavern with her gossips and refusing to leave when the husband calls for her, even as the waters are rising, unless she is allowed to take her gossips with her. I, again, am mind blown. So he says the tavern, Wright points out, was the resort of women of the middle and lower orders who assembled there to drink and gossip. The meetings of gossips in taverns formed the subjects of many of the popular songs of the 15th and 16th century, both in England and in France. The literature of mysteries and morality plays belongs to a period of transition in which women still maintained a considerable degree of social power, but their social position in urban areas was increasingly under threat as the guilds that sponsored the production of the plays were beginning to exclude them from their ranks and institute new boundaries between home and public space. Not surprisingly, then, women in them were often chastised and represented as quarrelsome, aggressive, and ready to give battle to their husbands. These satirical representations, expressions of a growing misogynist sentiment, were instrumental to the politics of the guilds that were striving to become exclusively male preserves, but the representation of women as strong, self asserting figures also captured the nature of the gender relations of the time. For neither in rural nor urban areas were women dependent on men for their survival. They had their own activities and shared much of their lives and work with other women. Women cooperated with each other in every aspect of life. They sewed, washed their clothes, gave birth surrounded by other women. Their legal status reflected their greater autonomy. In Italy in the 14th century, they could still go independently to court to denounce a man if he assaulted or molested them. By the 16th century, however, women's social position had begun to deteriorate, satire giving way to what, without exaggeration, can be described as a war on women, especially of the lower classes, reflected in the increasing number of attacks on women as scolds and domineering wives and of witchcraft accusations. Along with this development, we begin to see a change in the meaning of gossip, increasingly designating a woman engaging in idle talk. And then it goes on to talk about the feminization of poverty and with men in authority and the consolidation of the family, the power of the state with regard to wives and children, and with the loss of access to former means of livelihood, both women's power and female friendships were undermined. Now it goes on, but my point is that this term of endearment, of strength, of women collectively getting together, and she talks about in the book how it was a way to even pass stories and history down, and how this suddenly became a way to wield power against women and to take the power away by removing these spaces where women could get together and talk. And then, of course, it just went downhill from there. She also mentions how female friendships were one of the targets of the witch hunts, as in the course of the trials, accused women were forced under torture to denounce each other, friends turning in friends, and daughters turning in their mothers. And that is where the term gossip really took a downturn. And so, as you can see, it was a way to control women, to create a domineering, misogynistic society, and to take away the ability to share wisdom collectively and to do life together collectively. And so when I think about Intimate Partner Betrayal Awareness Day and how many partners are afraid to share their stories because they don't want to be seen as gossiping or saying something negative about their partner, I read that to encourage you that gossip is a word that was weaponized to keep women silent. And so the question I want you to ask yourself is, who's benefiting from your silence? If it's you, great. But if you feel pressured to remain silent, if you feel like you don't have a choice to be silent, if you feel like your voice is being pushed down, you are the one that I'm talking to. And again, this Betrayal Awareness Day is for men and women. The reason I'm talking to women right now is because women have historically been silenced. And so I want to empower you today to use your voice to share your story, even if it's just with yourself, writing out. If it's with one or two people that you trust, if it's a recording for a later day, you have a right to tell your story, and you no longer need to bear the weight of an untold story. So, Intimate Partner Betrayal Awareness Day is approaching August 4th. Be sure you go to the website ipbawareness.org and sign up for the newsletter, take the survey. The agenda will be up hopefully very soon. But either way, mark your calendar. You can purchase the book there. Again, you can also go to my website, which is fullyalivecoachingllc.com, and you can learn more about the candle that will be coming, the Tiff's Treats promotion, the ability to donate to the work that we're doing to raise awareness for intimate partner betrayal. And if you have a story that you want to share, please feel free to do that as well. You can send it in to IPBA at embersoflight.org. Again, that's IPBA for Intimate Partner Betrayal Awareness at embersoflight.org. Well, I'm going to wrap up there. Thank you so much for listening. For those who have asked or who are going back and just becoming acquainted with the podcast, thank you for your commitment. Awareness at embersoflight.org. Well, I'm going to wrap up there. Thank you so much for listening. For those who have asked or who are going back and just becoming acquainted with the podcast, thank you for your commitment. If you need support for your own betrayal, if you have been the person I'm talking about hiding in the shadows with no support, I want to invite you to go to my website, fullyalivecoachingllc.com. Click the Get Started button. You can schedule a free 30-minute consult. And even if I'm not the right person to support you, because I recognize that I'm not the right support for everybody, I would love to point you towards someone that might be a better fit for you. You can also send me an email. You can text me or call 832-422-5480. That comes directly to me, and I will be happy to respond. Thank you again for those who have been faithful listeners. I'm excited to be back, have lots to share with you. But for the next couple of weeks, I will be focusing on the lead up to Intimate Partner Betrayal Awareness Day and just sharing more, like how I shared the gossip, sharing more about that in the days ahead. So be sure to like and subscribe. Hopefully, you enjoy watching the video. I will be having more guests and just some more new things up my sleeve. It's a new day, a new season, and I am excited to be here. And as I always say, remember to dream big, love well, and live fully. Thank you so much for listening.